All right, you guys, welcome to September. It's my birthday month, so a little extra special, and it's also my daughter's birthday this month too. So we're gonna be doing a lot of celebrating in September, and we're gonna kick it off with some of the numbers that we recapped from August. Plus, I have two special things for you. We're gonna go over some additional charts and some additional information, and I have a special guest here with me. So all of this is to give you some perspective, bring what's happening in national news to our local level, and just make you think differently about what your current situation is and how you might take and apply this to what is important to you. So I wanted to just start quickly by saying that Gary Keller has said this is the most confusing market that he has been in the 40 years that he's been in the real estate industry. So we're gonna go through some historical information of our local market, but just know that there's so many mixed signals out there right now that you're not alone in feeling that things are just like the Wild West right now. And I might be a product of the Wild West, but we don't really like the real estate market being that way. So let's get into what we're seeing here locally, and then we're gonna do a little special additional bonus info, and then we've got our special guest too at the end. So when we look at average sales price and what this means for us here in Champaign County, we were pretty flat. When we look at what August of 2022 compared to August of 2021, there's only a difference of a couple $100 in the average sales price. Now, this chart, and I did all of my charts this time 3 years scan of data and information. So we're still up from where we are 2 years ago in 2020, okay? Going down to this one here, when we look at homes for sale in the last 3 years, we're currently at 324 houses on the market in the month of August. And when we look in 2019, there were 939 houses available for sale. We're at like a third of that. So our inventory is still super, super low. And that is a couple of those mixed signals that Gary Keller was talking about. So when we look at what is always consistent in our market is what goes under contract and when, okay? So when we look at this chart, it's no surprise. Houses go under contract in spring and in early summer here in our market. We're pretty consistent, we're pretty seasonal, and even though we had a COVID year in here, we still saw very similar numbers of home sales each month. So going down here, new listings coming on the market, this chart pretty much mirrors this one here of houses that are selling and going under contract, right? And the only thing that you would know, I had to put this little sticky note here because to remind myself, because the numbers aren't that different, but our COVID year was right here. And this number and this chart and blurb looks the same as all of the other years. So even though we have a really reduced inventory of houses, our prices are pretty flat this year compared to where they were last year in our local market. Houses are still pretty consistently going under contract. It just leaves a bunch of questions, right? So that's where I wanted to pull in a couple of different charts that are on the more national average to bring some additional perspective to what's happening. So when we look at the National Association of Realtors and what they have put together on an annual basis, we saw this is leading up to the Great Recession in 2008. Here we are on the very end looking at double-digit growth for the last 3 years in home prices with an with a median home price in the nation of $395,000. So the thing that's important about that is that yellow trend line. That usually goes up 4% every year. And if we stayed flat and there was zero appreciation for it would take 4 years for that number to reach us. So that makes me think that there's no way that we're not going to appreciate in value, which tells me it's still a good time to buy and invest in real estate because we're going to appreciate. That trend line is not going to pass us. We did things very differently than we did leading up to the recession, and so I think that we're going to be okay in this market. when we look at housing prices monthly, and this is where I'm going to bring in our expert.
Oh, yeah.
Come on in.
Thank you very much. I know.
Oh, our good friend Denise with Keller Mortgage.
Yes, thanks for having
You
me.
bet. You're someone who I always turn to for questions, and this time I'm going to kind of put you on the spot and not make you use your crystal ball, but you've been doing this for a very, very long time, and what I wanted to talk about is specifically like this chunk here. So in 2022, we saw interest rates start climbing in addition to housing prices climbing. So what does that mean for a buyer, and what are the conversations you're having around what changes in interest rates mean for what they can afford?
So thank you for having me, by the way, and thank you for that great question. I have this talk with consumers all the time about what the rates are going to do to their monthly payment, what maybe the economy is going to do to their monthly payment. Yeah. And what that means is that in a couple months from now, they're predicting that by the end of the year that rates will go up another 0.5% at the most.
Okay.
Which, correct. So then what happens is you take the median income type of person like myself who wants to buy a home. I have lost buying power approximately, depending on income, of course, by $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
In sales price. So what happens is you take a step down in the house that you originally would have bought if you would have bought sooner.
So in our market, where our average sales price is about $215,000, what does the buying power go to if the rate were to jump by 0.5%?
And this is completely just an estimate, but I just had this with somebody that now today with interest rates raising, their new price that they're qualified for is $185.
Okay.
You know, and that takes in a lot of factors.
Yeah.
And it's just an estimate, but it's a big step down. And so he is actually having a hard time finding a house now that he likes, the quality of home.
It's a pretty big difference in our personal market.
Right. Yeah. And so what people need to look at today is what can we do today to help for the future?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is one of those special programs that we talked about.
Yes, tell me about that. That's the one you can lock the rate.
Yes.
For 120 days. And yes. I was looking at a calendar. So she's got this program that you can lock an interest rate for 121 days or 120 days. That puts us into January. Right. So you could avoid that whole interest rate 0.5% climb if you were to lock today. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, so it's so funny so Katie and I were talking about this, and I love it that people have different perspectives about everything. And so when she said it, and she's like, that means they could lock a rate today and close in January. So when you put it that way, I was like, wow, that's a great program. So for you as the consumer, what that means is if you came today and were pre-qualified with Keller Mortgage, you have the opportunity to lock the rate in today for 120 days at no cost. And that means you have to close by the 120th day,
okay.
That's okay. But the best part of all of this is that if the rates were to drop, and let's say there was a drop instead of a raise, we will do a one-time rate reduction for you for free. I just don't know of any other program out there that's that great.
And a rate reduction and a lock for 120 days.
Well, exactly. And then you know what your house payment's going to be, basically, right?
Yeah.
At that point, if you're looking at a price point,
yeah.
Then you can feel comfortable with your budget. And I always think that that's the most important thing, is that you're buying a house that fits within your budget, so you're not living for your house. And that's what this product does for you, is gives you that opportunity.
Yeah. So how do people find out more about this program and get a hold of you?
Oh, thank you. So it feels weird, but my phone number is 217-460-1588, or just reach out to Katie or Danny, and they can send you my online application link, my cell phone, my email, whatever way is convenient for you is what we will do.
We want to be a resource. We want to help you understand perspective and, again, use this information so that you can make educated decisions and know what's right for you to move forward. And if we can partner you up with somebody who has been doing this job in this profession for 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah. She's been through the recession. She's been through different rate changes and knows her products. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, you guys. This is so exciting. Seriously, thanks for bringing all this great information.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.